Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker, a real estate investor helping you realize your dreams of owning a home or investing in one. Well, guys, so in looking into Hayvenhurst, I realized there is a lot going on. There's a lot of real estate lessons that we can learn just from the history, going through the history of this home. All right. So I am going to bring up a very controversial story about the Jacksons. I hate to do it because I am a fan. Believe it or not, I am a fan, but I am not necessarily a fan of something that occurred some years ago. Thank God it has been resolved, but we need to revisit it so that you can learn from it. Okay. All right. So, boy, I'm going to be talking about Alejandra Jackson. She had been living in the family home from 1995 until 2011 under some very questionable circumstances. So let's dive right into it. All right. All right. So 1991 is the year. Reby, Tito, Jackie, Marlon, Latoya, Janet, and Michael are no longer living in the Hayvenhurst mansion. Jermaine Jackson, he moves in with his wife back in 1991. But in 1993, his wife moves out and takes the kids with her. That same year, Randy moves into Hayvenhurst with his girlfriend, Alejandra. They met back in 1986. They never married. They just had kids and lived together. Now, as mentioned before, in 1994, there was an earthquake, Northridge, which devastated most of California and caused a lot of damage on this Hayvenhurst home. So everybody moved out at that particular time so that renovations could occur. All right. Well, while this was going on, 1995, Alejandra marries Jermaine. This is no surprise to those of us who are Jackson fans. Many of us, most of us already knew this, right? Okay, so she marries Jermaine. Randy can't take it, of course, and he leaves Hayvenhurst. Catherine Jackson, the mother, she doesn't approve of this at all. And I'm pretty sure she's not the only one that did not approve of it, but she's the one that we know for sure wasn't all that crazy about this situation, this relationship. Okay. So 1996, Hayvenhurst is completed, the renovations. So it's Alejandra, Jermaine, their kids, Catherine, and Joe Jackson are all living in the house together. Now, I mentioned to you guys before in a previous video, Joe Jackson did buy a property in Vegas, and he did live there for a while, but he came back because of the kids, I believe. But he did leave again, and then come back again and again. So anyway, let me move on. Okay, so now in 2004, things have really began to unravel. Okay. The marriage between Jermaine and Alejandra, they become annulled. Why? Well, it was discovered she was still married to Nicholas Ray. For those of you who don't know, Nicholas Ray is an American film director in Beverly Hills. So yes, she was married to this man back in 1987, and none of them knew about it. She was even still collecting money from this guy. You know, apparently it was said, because Nicholas Ray is significantly older than her, that she did this so that she could get a green card and so that she could stay in the country. Now, I know it ran across my mind, and I know a couple of other people, you know, how was it that nobody knew that she was married? Well, here's the thing. When it comes to marriage records, a lot of times, yes, it's free for the public, but only in that county. If you don't know what county the marriage took place, then you're not going to find out. Okay. Even if you go and let's say, you know, there are paid services where you can do background checks on people. A lot of those paid services, I'm finding, they only have American records. They don't have records for people overseas. Okay. You may have, there are some countries that don't even have background checks at all. And we know that she is from Colombia. That's where Alejandra was born. Okay. Also, I was checking the dates and I was questioning whether or not, you know, what I was reading were rumors or factual. But what I found out is this, because she was quite young, and she told, you know, many sources say that she told Randy that she was of age when she wasn't. And I was like, well, if she wasn't of age when she got with Randy, and she was married to this film director from 1987, then she would have been real young when she got married, right? Well, here's the thing. In Colombia, yes, 18 is the age, the legal, rightful age for girls to be married. However, they do make exceptions if parents give their consent. And if a parent gives your consent, you have to be 14 years or older. So, again, we don't know exactly, or maybe some of you do, and you can, you know, feel free to put that in the comments, when exactly or how old she was exactly when she married Nicholas Ray. Because I don't believe she would have been able to do that in the United States if she was under 18. Okay. Because apparently she was 17 or 16 when she met Randy, but that was back in 1986. So if she married this guy in 1987, then yes, she would have been 18. She would have been legal, but we don't know where it occurred. Apparently it did not occur the same place in which she married Jermaine. All right. Okay. Let me move on because there's a lot more. Okay. Now, back in 2011, California experienced a lot of earthquakes. There were several. And apparently more renovations needed to be done on the Hayvenhurst house, right? Okay, so in 2011, everyone pretty much left the house for the renovations. Alejandra was actually asked to leave as well. I think, though, she was really asked to leave more on a permanent basis, not temporary. But anyway, as it goes, Alejandra refused to leave. She stayed there, claiming that Michael Jackson would have wanted her to be there. I don't think so, because, you know, no, I wasn't there physically, but here's the thing. If renovations need to be made on a house and everybody leaves so that those renovations are made, and you're halting those renovations like they can't be made until the house is empty, then I don't think Michael Jackson would have approved of her and her children being in such an unsafe environment. Like, that doesn't sound like Michael to me. Okay, it really doesn't. But I digress. Let's go on. And as mentioned before in another video, you know, I'm wondering now, maybe that's why Catherine had wanted to sell, because remember, Catherine wanted to sell the house in 2011. Michael Jackson estate, which owned the house at that time, did not want Catherine to sell it. They wanted it to stay in the family. And that's probably why she moved to the Calabasas house, right? Remember, she negotiated with them to give her money from Michael Jackson's estate to go and live in that house. Anyway, just to keep the controversy, you know, on the low so that it doesn't like reach the tabloids, even though unfortunately it did. Mama Catherine Jackson and Michael Jackson estate did offer Alejandra to move into a condo, but she refused that as well. So they went ahead and they did an eviction. And guess what? Yes, Alejandra lawyered up. One of the things that she said that kind of bothered me a little bit is she made a claim that they starved her. Now, I'm a landlord. I've been one for 25 years, and I'm going to let you know something. Landlords are not responsible for feeding tenants. We're responsible for housing tenants to make sure that there is a roof above, a floor below, and walls in between and all around. And that's it. So no. I would not have gone for that as well, but I know she was trying to pull on she was hoping that she would pull on the heartstrings of fans, of the judges, you know, the jury. I think that's why she was, you know, put that out there like that. But nah, that does not give you a leg to stand on. However, she did find some other loopholes that caused them to evict. Because see, in each state, there is a time when a guest actually becomes a tenant. And in California, if a guest stays at your house for 14 days over a 6-month period or 7 consecutive nights, even if they never pay you rent, you know that you're considered that person is considered a tenant. And that was the case with her. The other thing is if they contribute to household expenses, which Jermaine says she did not, the courts will always say that, okay, this is a landlord-tenant situation. And then the other things is if she received mail, which she probably did, and if she has a key to the house, which she probably does, then yes, she would be considered a tenant, and telling her to move would not be enough. And then physically moving her stuff, yes, Mother Catherine Jackson would have gotten in trouble for doing that. She could turn around and sue Catherine Jackson or any of the Jacksons if they touched any of her stuff and physically moved them out of the property. Okay, that would have been considered an illegal eviction. So I remember when Wendy Williams was talking about this, and then there's also Auntie Patty, another blogger. They mentioned that they felt like this was elder abuse. So I said, well, let me look that up because, you know, honestly, I never really covered that. So yes, it is a possibility. It is potentially, in the context of this particular situation, financial exploitation and emotional manipulation. All right. So Mother Catherine Jackson, like if this did go to court, could argue that. Okay. She could say she was being coerced and manipulated into providing financial support because this person is staying in her home against her will. This person, Alejandra. All right. It's a form of exploitation. Elder abuse laws, you know, they vary by, all laws vary by jurisdiction. But anyway, needless to say, moving forward, Alejandra did eventually move out. So luckily for everyone, it did not, even though it went to court to a certain degree, it didn't follow through because she eventually came out. But I also noticed people were saying, oh, you know, she's going to write a book. I haven't seen a book since, but I did see sort of like a pilot for a show called Living with the Jacksons. But to my understanding, that show never took off. So I think that's probably what she wanted. But, you know, it didn't come into full fruition, if you will. And looking at this, you know, looking at all the details, I'm saying to myself, you know what? This is probably why Michael did not leave his brothers anything. This is probably why he only left it for his mother and his kids. But here is what Michael Jackson could have done, though. I'm reading this book called Protecting Your Real Estate Investments, Your Land Trust Handbook. It's by a guy named Augie Bilot. I met him at the Dealmaker conference. I met him online first on Facebook, and then he was at Dealmaker, and then he gave me this book on the Alaska real estate cruise, Investor Addicts. Yes. All right. And so I just wanted to go over certain things that Michael Jackson could have done to protect the family, what they had, and also what he has, right? Because I don't think he has these protections in there because he has a clause where he says he doesn't want his kids, even though the kids are beneficiaries of the trust, they are not really allowed to do anything until they're 35 years old. And right now, none of them are of that age yet, as of yet. So whatever money they got, yeah, some of it is from the trust, but some of it is from their own endeavors. All right. But anyway, these are the things that Michael Jackson could have put in. All right. Within the trust, he could have put in something called a spendthrift clause. All right. This is the type of, when you put it in, let's say, in a revocable trust, it protects your assets from creditors and divorcing spouses. Okay. It shields your child. Another thing is, if you put you can also put it in a will, if I'm not mistaken. I'm going to have to go over the book myself. But yeah, you can put that in. And this way, this would prevent your inheritance from going to your spouse, your children's spouse, excuse me. There's also something called a separate property clause. You would put that in a will. And basically it states that the assets that are inherited by your children are to remain separate property and not to be considered marital property. So that this way, if a divorce does occur, that spouse or former spouse can't take any part of the property that you bought. You also have a lifetime trust. Okay. Again, the lifetime trust allows your child, it doesn't give them like full control, but basically it protects the assets of your child's personal ownership. Again, safeguarding them against divorce. You also have an inheritance protection clause that also protects your child in case of divorce. And not just your children too, you know, brothers and sisters, the whole 9 yards. All of this can be used. And then you also have something called a discretionary trust. Again, They all do pretty much the same things, but they're like slightly different. Anyway, get the book. And even if you don't get this book, get somebody's book and speak to a lawyer as well in addition, so that this way your kids are protected. Because listen, some people, they don't believe in premarital agreements. All right. And if your child doesn't get a premarital agreement and then they get a divorce, guess what? The house that you worked so hard for, that you gave to them, now when they get a divorce, that spouse is going to take that house. Or they may take half of the proceeds of the house or whatever. So yes, you know, just to be safe, you should have certain clauses in your will and certain clauses in your trust. And make sure you go to the whatever lawyer you have, make sure you say to the lawyer, hey, which trust is the best one for me? Which clause is the best one for me, so that this property stays in my family and not goes to someone else's family. All right. So yeah, guys, that's basically what I wanted to share with you. I would like to know what your thoughts are. You know also what I'm going to say. If you don't like the laws that I just mentioned, don't get mad at me. No. Go to your local representatives and let them know, hey, wait a minute, we need to make some changes here because this right here is not fair, especially that whole thing about, you know, guests becoming tenants. Not enough of us go and speak to the people that can make that change that needs to be made. All right, guys. So that's all I have for you for right now. Hopefully the information that I shared will help you make smart financial moves. Feel free to pass this amongst your friends. Remember, each one, reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.